Hello and welcome to another episode of App Stories. Today's episode is brought to you by Xsolla. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Viticci. Hey, Federico.
Hello, we have returned. We're back.
We have returned. It is good to be back. It's good to talk to you.
Yes, I agree. It's good to be back, and we're gonna talk about taking breaks.
Yeah, we are,
and the importance of switching off every once in a while in the Pro Show for AppStories Plus members. In case you don't know, you can get AppStories Plus at appstories.net. You can sign up for $5 a month or $50 a year, and you're going to get a whole bunch of extras, including a whole extra part of the podcast every single week. And that episode is going to be ad-free and be released earlier. So you're going to get it earlier. You can brag to your friends about the fact that you're listening to us 24 hours earlier.
Yes, and on the cutting edge.
On the cutting edge of podcast schedules. That's what AppStories Plus does. We're going to talk about that in the Pro Show after the regular episode. In this regular episode, since it's our comeback after the summer vacation, John had the idea of, well, why don't you pitch it, John? What's the idea?
I wanted to talk about what we did during our vacations, from, I think we're going to save most of the kind of what the personal stuff that we did for Mac Stories Unwind. So if you don't listen to Mac Stories Unwind, we're going to be expanding on that aspect of it a little bit during that show. But I wanted in particular to really focus on what we did on the Mac Stories side, because it's, and people may think it's funny that when we say we took like a 2-week break, that we were still doing work stuff. And the reality is that, well, you know, our brains never shut off, and we are running a small business, and that's just kind of what you do. And there are aspects of what we do that I find in a way refreshing and relaxing but when we have our normal schedules where we're producing multiple podcasts and newsletters and all of that at one time, those things are overhang in your mind that you have a hard time getting to. And so what for me, I find really enjoyable is when we do take a break from those regular things like the podcasts and the newsletters, is I find time for things that are really experiments and things that, you know, I wrote during my break. I wrote, a handful of articles because writing to me is just kind of a relaxing thing in a lot of ways. But there were kind of special projects, I guess we did. Both of us were working on, and I thought we'd talk about those today.
Yeah. I didn't write anything during the break, but I took a lot of notes. And that was sort of the theme of what I did this summer during the break. The big thing for me was fully embracing, and you're going to hate it, but fully embracing the Notion lifestyle.
Nice.
I have tried Notion many times over the years, and I was never able to stick with it because I always felt, if you've been listening to, when did we start App Stories, John? 2017?
2017, yeah.
So if you've been listening for the past 8 years, you know that I've always lived with this tension. And it's got its ebb and flow, really, between note-taking and writing, and using one or two apps for those two things. And something that I think I learned about myself, not this summer, but in general, is that they're not really two. They are two separate things. They are two separate activities, but they very so often complement each other, right? Something that starts as a note maybe eventually graduates to being an article. This goes all the way back to an all-timer of an App Stories episode, which is Everything is Research,
right?
Because that's what it is. Like, I am a curious person by nature, and maybe I start reading about something and I start taking notes about that, and then I realize, oh, maybe this is interesting for other people as well. I should write something about it. It always, that virtuous cycle never ends. And that's why over the years of like, okay, do I want to use one app or two apps? Do I want to use Obsidian, Notion, Apple Notes? And it comes and goes, right? But in the past year, I thought I was going to be able to do it all. So I think I landed a few months ago on the idea of I need to do it all in a single application. And I thought that was going to be Obsidian.
Mm-hmm.
I think what happened, and the reason why I embraced Notion and why I was able to make a decision and be comfortable with it during my break and sort of finalize my workflow, was that I realized that I am using assistive AI tools for my work, for my creative work. Not in the sense that they're doing my work, I'm still writing myself.
Right.
But just for the boring part of my work, the research, the organizing of the documents, the taking notes, managing tasks, like the boring
Right.
parts.
Proofreading, those
and
kind of things.
the non-creative parts. I'm the creative person, and I got these digital tools assisting me in the creative process, not replacing the creative process. And I'm relying on those so much that not having that kind of AI integration has become a bit of a liability for how I like to work. This has been a change in the past year in how I get my work done. And so I am gravitating, this goes beyond Notion. I am gravitating more and more toward apps that have some kind of AI integration that can be the sort of AI that is customizable with my own prompts or with my own snippets, whatever it is, and that maybe have an API that I can script using shortcuts or the terminal or MCP, whatever it may be. I am gravitating towards those kinds of experiences because I feel like those are going to be reshaping the productivity space in the next few years. And so that's why I decided to use Notion, because I have been fascinated with this idea of AI complementing note-taking and research and search, and Obsidian by design or by it's their philosophy that it's a very different type of product, no AI built in, local file system, all of that is great, but I think I've become a different person, and maybe I've outgrown certain aspects of Obsidian, and I think that's fine.
Let me stop you for just 1 second on Obsidian, which is, I know you signed up at one point for Obsidian Copilot, which is a plugin that has a lot of generative AI tools in it. It's still very much, I would say it's very much in a beta phase still in many respects. Were you able to get anything out of that? I personally have found that I've mostly bounced off of it because I find it a little hard to use, but I've been keeping an eye on it because I think it has a lot of potential, but at the same time.
It's desktop only, and it's using embeddings, which means it's not like you're actually you're basically converting your entire Obsidian database into a vector model. You're using the RAG technique, and you got to bring in your own API key for ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Claude, whatever it may be. And it's slow, right? Especially if you got a large database, like I wanted to do. For example, I wanted to be able to search my entire archive of AppStories articles and iOS reviews. It takes a while to process, and it's costly, right? And it doesn't integrate at all with external tools. I feel like it's not just that I'm using LLMs more and more. I am using a particular flavor of LLMs. That's I think what I'm trying to say is that I'm not just saying, oh, yes, generative AI, great. No, I am saying I like using large language models that have excellent support for tool calling, for external tools. This is why I use Claude with MCP. This is why I'm using the Notion AI that also integrates and with external data connectors. It's why I don't use ChatGPT as much, because they don't really support MCP and external tools as much as Claude does. This is why I like using products like Shortwave, for example, that have native support for all kinds of external integrations.
Right.
Really, I think the main theme that I thought about it during my break, and I settled on it, I realized I am comfortable with making this decision, is that I like using AI tools that have integrations. And it's kind of funny because that's sort of exactly what Apple was pitching with Apple Intelligence. And so maybe we will revisit. I hope to be able to revisit this angle from the Apple perspective next year, because I realized that's what I like. It's not just about, opening ChatGPT and asking, hey, draw me an image of, John as an anime character. No, right. I like using these tools as natural language command palettes for the apps that I use. That's my thing. I
think, that's a very interesting approach. And I totally get it, because I'm a huge fan of shortwave too. It has really made me a lot more effective in dealing with my email and surfacing important information that from the past that I find in my email, creating summaries and reports and all sorts of things, because it's all integrated with Claude. And I'm not a person who dislikes Notion. I mean, you've heard me do the Notion ad reads on this show before. They're not a sponsor this week, but what the part of it that for me has created friction in the past from a writing perspective, not so much a note-taking perspective, is the fact that the text is block-based. And the problem I have with that is always, I feel like the UI is always popping up in my face instead of just having text that I'm laying down in a document that I can then manipulate with keyboard shortcuts, which is what I really like about Obsidian, that I have all kinds of hotkeys set just to do very basic text manipulation stuff, like moving paragraphs up and down through a document or something like that. And with Notion, you can do all those things, but you find there's a lot of, hover menus and that sort of thing that I've always kind of bounced off. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by our friends at Steamclock. Steamclock Software is a design and development studio that ships great mobile apps. They work with growing tech companies to level up their customer-facing experiences on iOS and Android. Often, Steamclock clients know they need a great mobile app to grow their business, but they don't have the capacity to build one themselves. Or they took a first crack at the problem and often wind up with an app that's kind of janky. What all of Steamclock's clients have in common, though, is that they care about great customer experiences. While Steamclock can build apps using React Native and other cross-platform tools, they also have deep expertise in building excellent native apps with Swift and Kotlin. They're also great at helping companies weigh the trade-offs of each of these different approaches. So, if that sounds like you, if your business is growing and you want your customers to have a great app experience, visit steamclock.com/appstories and get in touch with them today. That's steamclock.com/appstories to get in touch with them to see how they can help you with your app. Our thanks to Steamclock for their support of the show.
Okay, so let me tell you how I've been using Notion.
All right.
I have been using it both for research, note-taking, and writing. Now, the writing part, this may sound strange to you because I know that you dislike the block-based nature of Notion.
Right.
I think you get used to that, especially knowing where to click and how to not accidentally invoking the menus and the context menus for the blocks. I wrote the entire iPadOS preview story in Notion, for example. Wow. I have been writing linked posts and short posts in Notion. The trick has been to, I don't publish from Notion. So the trick for me has been exporting Markdown from Notion. And that I have done using the API. I used to translate Notion pages using MCP from Claude and then copying and pasting the Markdown output with all of the elements that I need, right? So clickable links, footnotes, images, image captions, block quotes, everything from the API as Markdown. Then I moved to using drafts as sort of the destination for that Markdown. So I use Claude to vibe code my own JavaScript actions. They use all of the native drafts features and native iOS UI elements to take a Notion page and convert it to Markdown that I can publish from drafts. So I do end up with regular Markdown at the end. And thanks to the API, it's all very scriptable, it's all very fast. I get just vanilla Markdown out of the Notion API. That's something you can do. For me, though, the big aspect of Notion has been being able to really treat it as essentially like Lego blocks, but for software. So to be able to mix and match databases and to be able to create all kinds of filters and custom views for databases. So for example, I have this database for the iOS and iPadOS review, which I am writing in Notion. I am researching in Notion, and everything is going into the same database. But thanks to the properties, thanks to the metadata, I can create separate views for the research material, for the WWDC sessions, for the notes, and for the chapters, right? So in the same database, I can split it and mix and match different parts of the project, right? So everything
is that using like is that like a tagging system that you're using?
Properties, right?
Properties,
so, for example, the chapters have a property called is it basically a chapter? And if it's a chapter, I can create a view that is like my list of chapters. If it's accompanying research material, it goes into a separate view. And the advantage there is the communication between the different parts of the project. So I can easily reference, for example, the research material when I'm writing a chapter, right? So when I'm writing the design chapter, I got all of my other notes on the other side. And those are natively linking to the design chapter of the review. So I see the backlinks, right? So I see that they are using a relation property in the database so that, for example, I know how to reference the appropriate sessions when I am writing the design chapter. Or another idea, I have received a lot of emails. In fact, almost 100 emails for apps for iOS 26 that have Liquid Glass, Apple Intelligence, or some of the new features like Alarm Kit. All of those, thanks to Claude and MCP, I put together this project in Claude that monitors my Gmail and finds, using natural language, emails from developers, not from TestFlight, from actual developers sending me pitches for their iOS 26 apps. Those emails are processed and saved in a database in Notion, and they are automatically categorized based on the natural language contents. Claude knows how to deal with, okay, is it iOS or iPadOS? Is it about design? Is it about something else? It knows how to format the name of the developer, the TestFlight link that is often included with the email, the details of the update or the new app that is coming out, goes into a database. And from there, I can basically pick and choose, and I can say, okay, this app is interesting. Is it not interesting? Do I want to cover it? Do I want to not cover it? So I can keep track of, have I replied to this email? There's a deep link that I can click to reopen the original message, but I can also categorize those emails in Notion. I can say, well, this one deserves a mention in the review. And if it does, which chapter? So again, when I'm in the chapter, I can say, okay, what are apps that I can use as examples in this chapter? And because of the relation property, I very easily can see, okay, I should probably mention drafts and something else in the Apple Intelligence chapter. So all of those connections, all of those properties, that metadata, and the tools that Notion gives you for filters and properties and creating custom views based on that have been really, really excellent for me.
Have you found yourself fiddling with the system a lot, though? I mean, that's to me like one of the risks and dangers of these kinds of systems is that you end up spending more time building them than using them.
Well, I think I've been pretty good at that. I think there's definitely a component of constant fiddling with the system, always making stuff. But
there's a big learning curve too, because you're doing fairly advanced stuff.
And I don't really do any of the Notion aesthetic thing. Mine is more of a functional approach. My Notion looks pretty basic, but it's just very fine-tuned to the kind of research that I want to do. And what's been also really good is the Notion AI built in. I'm also on the Notion beta program for Notion AI, so I'm not sure how many features are actually available to the public and how many are not. But one that I was testing and that is now live is like the agentic AI that they have for creating and modifying databases. So for example, something that I've been able to do is taking a whole bunch of like research material that I had, notes that I had in a whole bunch of other places, PDFs, web pages that I saved, notes that I had previously saved about changes in beta 3, changes in beta 4, and saying, take a look at all these things, then take a look at my chapters, read all of them, let me know if there's anything that I've missed. And if you compare this research material with the actual stuff that I have in my chapter, let me know which features I may have missed. And when you find them, wait for my confirmation. And when I tell you to do that, make a note in the chapter that references the feature that I'm supposed to cover. So that sort of cross-examination, right?
Yeah.
That I used to do manually. Now I can just get an AI to do it. And then I am going to do the writing part, right? I get to decide, do I actually want to mention this feature or not? But I got basically a really fancy, intelligent search system that can take action on those things for me. And
that cross-referencing feature, what you're doing with that is one of the things that I've found most useful with generative AI. I've used it in a bunch of different contexts, and it's really helpful, I think, especially when you have a lot of information to play it off of, even multiple LLMs, one off the other, and fill in the gaps with it. Let me just drop in one other question for you before you go on, which is when you're doing the actual research, let's say, there are a lot of times when I will go to Claude or maybe ChatGPT, and especially on a topic that I don't know a lot about, and I'll say, basically go out on the internet and find out all this information about this topic and get back to me with some sort of summary report. Do you do that inside of Notion, or are you still using chatbots to do that and then pasting it into Notion?
That is an excellent question. That was part of what I did in my summer break. Yes.
Because I think about this a lot with the stuff I've been doing too. Yeah.
Yes. I am in the process of moving on from the chatbot onto the same AI, because it's still Claude, it's the system that I prefer, into the app that I'm using, which is why I am embracing Notion AI just like I'm embracing the shortwave AI. I think I prefer to have that system built into the main product rather than in a
100%.
project in the chatbot. If anything, because it's faster than MCP usually. And that AI, it's kind of confusing to explain because it's the same AI, it's the same system, right? But when you use MCP in Claude, sure, you have the tools to deal with Gmail or with Notion, but the same AI, usually, when it's inside Notion or when it's inside Shortwave, knows better how to deal with the parts of the app itself, right?
Because there's more context. The context
There's more
is better.
context for the instructions that the Notion AI knows how to work with Notion. The Notion MCP server just tells Claude, hey, I have these tools, do whatever you want. Claude hasn't been trained on Notion. So now that Notion AI has web search capabilities, the same model, reasoning models, and integration with Notion, I prefer to have that AI built into the app rather than having the chatbot on the side. Again, it goes back to the idea, Apple is not mistaken from my perspective in saying it's more useful to have the AI built into the app itself that you're using rather than the chatbot. It's just that so far, chatbots have made more progress, right? Which is why we've been using them. But
right. And one of the things that drives me crazy about chatbots is just the tape roll aspect of it, where you have a long conversation with lots of information in it. And this, for me, comes in a lot of times when I'm trying to do a script or something, where I'll get some output and I'll go through it and I'll have a follow-up question. And now I have to go all the way to the bottom, have the follow-up question, get a response, then scroll back up to the wherever I was before. I feel like it's a really bad UI for certain kinds of tasks.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So what I've been doing over the summer break is trying to make sense. Like I knew I wanted to use Notion. I knew I wanted to have AI as an assistive tool part of my workflow. But I spent a lot of time thinking, okay, do I want to use projects in Claude, or do I want to try and move over these tasks to the AI that is built into the app that I'm using? Because like, it's not like I'm working inside Claude. I'm working inside Notion. I'm working inside Shortwave and so forth. So that's what I've been doing. And Notion AI, they've been doing some really interesting work when it comes to the agents, creating and modifying a database for you. And I think they have more features coming. And I think the bigger trend on the horizon, and I think we're gonna see a whole bunch of products in this fashion going beyond Notion. This is something that I spent a lot of time thinking about. The next frontier is essentially automations with external integrations, with triggers and schedules and templates, that sort of thing. I think there's a market for that kind of idea of, it's great that you have a large language model, it's great that you have integrations, but how do you make them more reliable and consistent, and how can you automate that? It all goes back to automation eventually.
Yeah,
it all goes back to that.
So yeah, it really does. Let me ask this real quick: is the Notion AI that's built based on Claude, or are you connecting your own API?
You pay for the Notion AI. You do not bring your API key, and you can choose. Right now they have GPT-5 and Claude for Sonnet. I hope they will add 4.1 Opus. Yes. Yeah. I hope they will add it. In conclusion, I will also say, because of this progressive embrace of Notion, which I am using for daily notes, I am using for tasks, I am using for the iOS review, I am using for editorial planning of Mac stories, I'm using just for general research. It also allows me to create a lot of things with shortcuts, thanks to the excellent Automate utility, which is a Notion dedicated utility that brings Notion actions to shortcuts, and also with drafts. I'm using drafts to append text to my daily notes, to create tasks in Notion from drafts, like I mentioned, to export Markdown from Notion into drafts. So, APIs, they're great because they let you integrate with the tools that you prefer to use for work. So that's what I've done. I have made a decision. I have started consolidating all of these tools into a workflow that I don't have to think about, right, every single day and spend time just tweaking, and actually spend time working.
Oh, that's interesting. I spent some time myself over the holiday, over our break, working on cleaning up my Obsidian and trying to find a way to better organize it. And I wouldn't say that you have sold me, but it is something that I want to spend a little more time exploring, because we're using it for some of the things like our podcast show notes. So that's a nice way for me to dip my toe into it without really going all in. I don't really have the time to go all in on it just yet anyway, but that's fun. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes for you, Federico. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Xsolla. You've probably read our coverage of how alternative payment methods are opening up for developers as a result of the ruling in Epic versus Apple. Yes, Apple is appealing, but now is a great time to investigate ways to add direct sales inside your games so you can retain more revenue from US players. The decision opened up some really interesting possibilities for developers here in the United States. For the first time, iOS developers can direct users to external payment methods without running afoul of the App Store guidelines. And the way to do that is with today's sponsor, Xsolla Webshop. Xsolla is a globally trusted video game commerce company with extensive experience supporting both major studios and indie developers. With Xsolla Webshop, game developers get a fully featured white label digital storefront that lets you sell in-app purchases from your own website. The integration is easy and doesn't require tech specialists, and there are no operational costs. Plus, the economics are great. Instead of paying as much as 30% to the App Store, developers using Xsolla Webshop can save up to 25% with Xsolla's low 5% fee. That's a big difference. The technical implementation is impressive too. There's a no-code solution that allows you to import your catalog and customize your storefront to match your app's branding without writing any code. Plus, there's an advanced live ops tool to retain players on the web and grow their LTV. Plus, they support over 1,000 payment methods globally, which means you're not losing international customers due to payment friction. From a player's perspective, the purchase flow is seamless. Log in via a deep link, one-tap purchase through Apple Pay, and auto redirection to the game. Players love the web shop because it respects their habits and brings more value at the same price. Xsolla's roots are in gaming, but the application extends far beyond that. Any app with a subscription tier, premium content, virtual goods, or digital add-ons could benefit from the approach. Think productivity apps with premium templates, photo editing apps with filter packs, or educational apps with course content and more. With new business models suddenly available to developers, it's the perfect time to check out Xsolla Web Shop. Are your players still buying only within your app? You're leaving money on the table. After Epic vs. Apple, US devs can drive players straight from the game to their own web shop, keeping both revenue and data. Xsolla makes this possible. Launch a fully branded store in a single day. Pay just 5% and join the 600 plus games already boosting margins with their leading web shop solution. Beat the rush, hit the link in the show notes, and open up your web shop today. Our thanks to Xsolla for their support of the show.
What have you been up to?
For me, my break was a lot of little things. It was a little bit like a mini version of what we tend to do over the winter holidays around Christmas to New Year's.
Yeah.
And because I had just kind of gotten myself into this state where everything felt disorganized, both in my physical space, in my office, and in Obsidian, and in my task manager, literally everywhere. And I just needed to kind of clear the decks so that I could go into the review season feeling a little more calmer than I was when we decided to take our break. And so one of the first things I did was I literally took out every single thing in my office and put it on the floor and started from scratch in terms of organizing. And the first thing I did was I have a pretty big closet that's sitting behind me. You can actually see it if you're watching the video. That door back there onto the left and right, there's a little dead space and it's not used for clothes or anything. I bought the Kallax from IKEA, which, the Kallax is a kind of tried and true organization system.
Yes.
I just have two individual 4-shelf vertical Kallax, one on each side. And I got some boxes to go into the little square cubby holes. And I divided them up into various things, like some of them are cables, some are video equipment, some of them audio. There's like a projects bin for like things I'm testing, but not like every day. Just the kind of stuff that goes in there is things that I don't use day to day, but I need to have close at hand. There is, yes, in fact, one that is full of game controllers. That is part of it. And then in the center of the closet, that's right facing the door, I wanted to have more storage there too, but not block my access to the shelves on the side. So what I ended up getting, which ended up working out super well, also from IKEA, was this wireframe grid. It's like a little pallet. It has wheels on the bottom and there's a small lip around the side. And I already had a bunch of these like plastic bins, that you can store things in, whether it's clothes or other kinds of gear. And for me, it's like paperwork and office equipment and other tech stuff. And I stack those bins on the wheeled tray type thing. And when I need to get into the Kallax, I just wheel that thing out the door, push it to the side, and get to the stuff really easily. What I used to do is I had them stacked on the floor, and I would have to, if I needed something on the sides, I would have to like pull out every one of those bins, and then I'd have to reconstruct that organization every single time. Now all I do is just pull the whole stack out at once and put it back in. So that has been really nice. I mean, that has made things a lot better organized in my office. And so that I highly recommend looking at that kind of thing. I mean, the key to it is not so much what it is, but the fact that I can access things without having to kind of reconstruct the organization every time. You know, I have a way to store lots of things in a relatively small space.
You'll be shocked to hear that I haven't touched my desk in months since I truly finished it.
That's because all you did was touch your desk for months.
I'm done.
Here's a shocker for you. I haven't really been using a task manager for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know what it's. I just decided I kind of know what I have to do week to week, and I just stopped for a while. I'm not going to keep stopping. I'm kind of easing my way back into Todoist. I need to go through and organize it a little better. But I did kind of stop for a while. I do find that when I'm really busy, and I've written about this for Club Mac Stories before, I do kind of revert to just a simple list, plain text list in something like Obsidian, where I'm like, okay, here are like the 4 or 5 things I absolutely have to do today. The downside of those kind of approaches is that it's easy to kind of lose track of longer term projects that I really need to be focused on, in the weeks coming up. So that's why I'm not abandoning task managers. I just was taking a little bit of a mental break from organizing my tasks.
Have you changed anything else in the apps that you use?
In the apps?
Yeah.
Not really. Not really. I did change my hardware a little bit. I bought a new audio interface for podcasting because, and I think you'll appreciate this, I was using the Elgato Wave XLR, which I know you've used in the past too. Yeah. And what I've never liked about bus-powered audio interfaces is that you can't turn them off for the most part. Most of them, they have the light shining at you all day long, and it's a little distracting. And that Wave XLR actually generated an extraordinary amount of heat for the little device that it was. And I have a south-facing office. It gets hot enough in here without extra equipment causing heat for no reason when I'm not podcasting. So I bought this MOTU, which stands for Mark of the Unicorn, believe it or not, M4 audio interface. And it can use 4 XLR mics. I don't need 4. I got the M4 because it also has a little fader knob that lets me fade between listening to you in my ears and myself, so I can balance that a little better. But what I like about it is it's got nice knobs. It's got a great display for showing me my audio levels. But best of all, it has an on-off switch. It's literally the only bus-powered USB-C audio interface that I could find that has an on-off switch. And so when I'm finished recording today, I'll turn the thing off and it's dark and it's not creating heat. It's not drawing power. It's just there. And the next time I have to use it, it's just sitting on the shelf. Click with the power button and I'm ready to go. It's been rock solid. I actually debuted testing it when I did the appearance on Connected recently. So that's my new tech, I suppose. Nothing new in terms of the apps I'm using really though. But I also spent a lot of time, as you did, with Claude. And for me, I had this idea for bringing back something that was on hiatus from Mac Stories for 7 years. And that is Mac Stories Deals. And, longtime readers of Mac Stories will remember we had that around when I started, but it kind of faded in around 2018. And that was largely because a lot of what we were posting in those days were app deals and they were affiliate links with Apple. And that was a source of revenue for Mac Stories. And when that went away, when Apple canceled that, we just kind of let that go by the wayside. And I was just thinking about things that we could do for readers that would help them find deals that were actually things that we recommend, because I follow a lot of deal websites and deal social accounts, and I find that they're just stuffed with a lot of junk because for the most part, affiliate linking is a numbers game. It's a scale game for a lot of websites because in particular, like Amazon only has a 24-hour cookie. You post that link and it's dead, and it's essentially doesn't, when someone clicks on it, they have to buy something within 24 hours for that commission to go through. And so that just drives people to post lots and lots and lots of links. hoping to get those clicks. And I thought there would be a better way to do it at kind of a more human MacStories scale, which is and this is probably I think a pretty good combination of AI and human editorial discretion, which is I built this using Claude in a lot of ways because I wasn't certain whether it was going to be something that was going to be successful or profitable. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to pour a ton of time into it. Mm-hmm. And I also needed to do something that if it was successful, and spoiler, it has been successful so far, I didn't want it to suck up all my time on an ongoing basis, right? So what I did was, and probably the most interesting part of it was I designed a Python script that takes every product that we have in our setups page on MacStories, macstories.com/setups, plus
.net, not .com.
I can't believe I said .com. Yes, macstories.net/setups that takes those products from that page and combines it with a long list of brands that we have both used and reviewed and basically trust. And what I do is I run that script periodically, and it takes Amazon's API, it compares it to that list, and it pulls all the deals that are greater than 10%. That's my cutoff. And then it applies like a ranking algorithm. Mm-hmm. It takes a whole bunch of factors, like how compatible is it with Apple stuff? What's the absolute price? How much is the discount? All kinds of things that I think are relevant to whether it's a good deal or not just the price. And I rank them according to that. And that will usually return 200 or 300 things because, this is a API that has hundreds of thousands of products in it. And that'll return 200 or 300 things in a spreadsheet. And I just go through it. And I'm like, and this is where the editorial part comes in. I find what I think is good. And I those are the things that we post. And I write up the posts myself. And the automation bit of it on top of that script is that I'm using Zapier, and this was a very good introduction for figuring out how to find workflows that work using Claude, because I use Zapier combined with both Blue Sky and Mastodon and a Google Sheet to put those deals in a Google Sheet and then have Zapier fire off at predetermined times during the day and post to both of those social networks. Now, when Claude first suggested a Zapier workflow for me, it wanted to check whether I had put a deal in the Google Sheet every 5 minutes. And I asked it, how many Zapier tasks will that use? And it was like, 3,000 a week or something like that. And I was like, well, I have 750 at my disposal with the Zapier plan that I have. And I wanted to do something, one, that's more efficient than that. Two, because I didn't want to spend more on Zapier than I already was. And I wanted it to be, I didn't want it firing off all the time. So ultimately I came up with a better system. I used Claude to do that. And what it was good for was not so much having Claude do it, but it helped me think through what was a better approach. And it's a combination, what it's using is a combination of scheduled tasks with Mastodon is via webhooks because Mastodon doesn't have an integration with Zapier. So it's just using straight access to their API. And then for Blue Sky, there is an integration, and it's a very nice integration. It does, in a lot of respects, it does a much better job in a lot of respects than Mastodon can handle with its straight API approach. But that's how I did it. And it allows me to just come up with, we're doing like 4 deals a day right now. And I think I'm not planning on changing that anytime soon, but a couple of Amazon and a couple of Apple typically. And I just throw those in the spreadsheet and it takes care of itself. I don't have to do anything else beyond that.
Nice. It's that, what I like about it is that combination of like, it's the automation based on natural language and LLMs, but also the human aspect of like actually picking and choosing, and being selective instead of just, having a script that posts all kinds of junk all day long.
Right. Right. Because it's a fire hose, right? I mean, that's the the Amazon deal API is just a fire hose. And if you ever have been to websites that track Apple movie and TV deals, it's the same thing. There's an awful lot of, low budget horror movies and other things that aren't really very good on those sites as well. And so I have various ways that I'm tracking those things and coming up with the deals and posting them to my Google Sheet, which it was kind of fun. I mean, it was something that I think if I hadn't had the benefit of Claude helping me create the Python script and work through the issues with Zapier, it would have taken me a lot longer, and I probably would have needed some external help on some aspects of it. And instead, over the course of, just noodling over it for about a week and doing a bunch of follow-up queries through Claude Opus, I was able to come up with something that works really solidly and well for me. So that's been really nice.
Nice. Well, we've both been busy. It sounds like
even though
we were on break.
I do want to make a pitch for people following the MacStories Deals accounts on both Mastodon and Blue Sky, because I think that we're doing a really nice job of being picky and coming up with really, truly good deals, not just deals. Because, a lot of times I'll see stuff and it's like, oh, it's 5% off. And it's not really a good deal. To me, a good deal is both something. There's a lot of things that go to what's in a good deal. And that's why we have the spreadsheet. And that's why I'm actually doing the picks, not some machine doing it. And it's all based on kind of the things we've done in the past at MacStories. So I would encourage people, if you're, it's just a nice way to kind of browse what's available and maybe get a good deal along the way.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that does it for this comeback episode of App Stories.
Yeah, we're going to get busy. We've got a lot coming for people with Club MacStories very soon. We've got the review season. Obviously, there's an Apple event on September 9th. We are going to be doing our reviews. The club members are going to be getting their usual perks. We'll have ebooks of the reviews and all sorts of other things. So just like it's a good time to follow those social accounts, it's a good time to join Club MacStories by going to plus.club.
Yeah. All right,
Federico. I'm done selling everybody on stuff. I think we're going to take it easy and roll right into AppStories Plus. So thanks for everybody for listening. You can find me and Federico, as always, on macstories.net. Federico is on social media where he's at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHEES. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.